Hopefully I can avoid the YouTube copyright strike with this 1993 Jack and the Beanstalk Arby's promotional tape. Hey guys, I just wanted to do a really quick video, show you how to change the drive belt on a cassette player. It'll be really easy to tell if the cassette player that you have is having this issue, because if you put batteries in it and press play, like this, you can hear the motor running, but you can see the drive wheels aren't turning. So this is really common in these old tape players. As they get older, the drive belt kind of turns to like a sticky, gooey sludge. And the drive belt, the tension and everything is very particular, so it needs to be right, or else the drive wheels won't turn. So finding a replacement drive belt for these is relatively easy. You can go onto Amazon or onto eBay. Just type in the model number of the tape player with the words drive belt after them, and I haven't found one yet that didn't have a drive belt part available. For this particular one, this is a Panasonic model RQ-V80, and I got it from a place called Tech out of the UK. So I did have to switch over to, I believe it was Amazon UK, to find this part, because there was none in the US one. The process for doing this is relatively simple. Every tape player comes apart a little bit differently, but in this case it's just 4 screws on the back. So we'll go ahead and we'll pop the batteries out of here. And we'll just remove these 4 screws on the back plate here. For this one, the easiest way is just to put a pry tool in there. Just pop it right open. And then this whole back cover comes off. You can see inside the tape player. Now the drive motor and the belts are right under here. There's a little tab right there by where the DC input jack is, and that kind of holds this side of the circuit board down. So we'll go ahead and kind of pry against that and lift up on the board very, very gently, and that'll let us get it out of there. And then over on this side, you can see there's a tab here and there's a tab here that hold the board down. No screws or anything, so we'll go ahead and pry that one down. We'll pry this one over, and that should give us a little bit more access. Yeah, a little bit more access to the drive wheels in there. And as you can see, I actually already had this apart and cleaned it out a little bit before I started the video, but between that pulley right there, hopefully you can see it, that pulley right there in the center of the motor, and this pulley right here. Okay, so I screwed up and I didn't record audio for this next part, so I'm going to overdub this audio. Okay, so I have the circuit board off of where the pulleys are. Here's a better look at one of the other pulleys. It's the larger pulley that the second belt goes around. You can kind of see that it goes around this bigger one, and then there's an intermediary shaft with 2 pulleys on it, and this one connects to the lower pulley. It's the smaller of the 2 on the intermediary shaft. So we're gonna try to change this one too. It's really important when you're doing this to make sure that when you put the new drive belts on, they're not twisted. They have to lay flat all the way across the path of the pulleys on both sides. So you can kind of see in there what I'm talking about, the 2 stack pulleys. This belt on the larger of the 2 belts was actually in pretty good shape. Trying to kind of stretch it, it was a little less compliant than the newer belt. So we're going to go ahead and get in there with some tweezers and pull gently from the one side and kind of rotate it, and it'll come right off the pulley, kind of like a bicycle chain. And then we're going to pull from the other side and try to get it off of the smaller bottom pulley on the intermediary shaft. Now, the only part that was kind of tricky about this was right there. You can see that the top pulley is a little larger than the bottom one, and it's very close to the mount for the motor. So there's just a tiny little space to kind of slip the belt through, but it was just enough room to gently kind of ease it through there. So go ahead and pull this larger belt off, and Let's see here. Yeah, and you can see it's kind of stretchy, but not really. It's not falling apart like the smaller one was, and it hadn't turned to goo, but it definitely wasn't as springy as the new one. Sort of open this bag here. I actually used the pry tool to try to cut the bag open. It worked well enough, I suppose. So there's the new belts, and I don't know really how they make these belts or where they come from, but they're not normal rubber bands. They're not as stretchy as a rubber band. I think they're made of a completely different material, actually. And this is a rubber band that I actually tried to put onto this tape player to make it work. And as you can see, it's way smaller in diameter, and the material is way thicker. And it worked. It drove the drive gear, and it transferred the power. But I couldn't get it on there without it twisting up. And not only that, but it just barely fit on because it was so fat, and it kind of fell off a couple times, and I was able to eventually get it to stay on, but it just wouldn't play correctly. It was all warbly. The speed was inconsistent. So if you're thinking I'm gonna take this thing apart and just slap a rubber band on there, don't even bother, because it's not gonna work. It'll play it, but it'll play at a super low speed or a super high speed, or kind of both with the warble. So we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna ease this new one on there. It can be a little tricky to get things lined up, but we're gonna get it lined up on the smaller pulley first, and then work it through that tiny space in between the pulley, intermediary pulley shaft and the motor mount point there. So once we get it through there, it was a little twisted up on the back, so we kind of straightened that out, and I made sure it was on this front one properly. It was on there straight, as straight as I could get it on there, at least without having any pull on the belt. And then just kind of pull from the other side, and I pulled out to the left of the pulley and then rotated the pulley with the friction from the belt to pull the rest on. Just again, it's a lot like putting a chain back on a bicycle whenever the chain falls off. So you can see in there, everything is good. It's sitting nicely on this smaller pulley on the intermediary pulley, and it's also on very nicely on the larger pulley on the back. You can see it's really nice and flat. It's laying consistently. It's not twisted up. So that's perfect. That'll work just fine. So next we're going to try to put the smaller one on. The smaller one's a little easier than the other because you don't have to deal with slipping it over that larger pulley on the intermediary shaft. And also, it all happens from this one side, so you can see a lot more easily what you're doing. So we're just going to wrap it around the back of the larger top pulley on the intermediary shaft, and again, put it kind of towards the bottom, and then rotate it like you would trying to put a bicycle chain back on a bicycle. So get it started on the one side, and then kind of rotate it around. And there you go. And you can see it's on nice and straight. It's not twisting. It's not binding. And we know everything's working properly because we can rotate the motor, the pulley that's on the motor, and we can see the power's transferring to the intermediary shaft, and then from the other pulley, the bottom pulley, and that drive belt to the larger pulley in the back. So we're just gonna pop this cable right here back into the little notch there. I had to take that out to try to get a little more clearance so I could get to the drive belts a little easier. We're gonna pop those two tabs on the left hand side, and then we're going to use the screwdriver here to give us a little more clearance and pop this tab in here. Make sure everything's pressed down properly. Make sure the battery terminals are lined up and sitting where they need to, so that it'll work once we put it all back together. So we're going to put the back cover on and kind of click it into place. There's some snaps that kind of you'll feel it kind of pop into place whenever it's good, and we'll start putting these 4 screws in. All right, so we're about ready to pop in some batteries now and give it a test, make sure it's playing properly, make sure the speed is good, the pitch, the sound of the recording plays back true, and there's no warble or any weirdness going on there. So let's check first that the drive gears are working, that they're spinning. See, it's working now. That drive spool, I guess, I don't know what the heck it's called, but the little drive wheel is turning whenever we press the play button there. Okay, I got a tape loaded in there. Hopefully I can avoid the YouTube copyright strike with this 1993 Jack and the Beanstalk Arby's promotional tape. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop that in the tape player here.
There stood the good fairy.
Jack, you are a brave and noble boy. I give you my blessing.
She touched Jack on the shoulder with her magic wand and disappeared. Now that the cruel giant was dead and the beanstalk was cut down,
so as you can see, the tape player is functioning perfectly. And it's really not a bad idea while you're in there to maybe toss a little grease on some of these gears and things like that. But you know, this quick fix will get your tape player back up and running. I think the drive belt was, I want to say it was like $6. So it's pretty cheap. You know, if you have a tape player, you got a bunch of tapes laying around that you want to listen to. You know, there's still hope for these old tape players. So there you have it. It's pretty easy to get one of these back in working order. If you have some old cassettes you want to listen to, and you know, you go to find that your tape player is not working, it could potentially be a really easy fix. So don't toss it, fix it. Hit up the comment section if you have any questions, and I'll try to help as best I can. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. Good luck on your repairs.